Nam karma. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, now Jnanam
Jnanam
Karma
Karma
Cha
Cha
Karta
Karta
Cha
Cha
Tridaiva
Tritaiva
Guna
Guna
Vedata
Vedata
Projate
Projate
Guna
Guna
Sankhye Sankhyaneh
Sankhyaneh
Yatavai
Yatava
Shrinu
Shrinu
Tanu
Tanu
Api
Api
Janam Karma Chakarta Cha
Jnanam Karma Chakarta Cha
Tridaiva Guna Vedata
Vidaiva Guna Vedata
Projate Guna Sankhyaneh
Projate Guna Sankhyaneh
Yataive Trinu Tanu Api
Yatava Shrinu Tanu
Jnanam Karma Chakarta Cha
Jnanam Karma Chakarta Cha
Tridaiva Guna Vedata
Vidaiva Guna Vedata
Projate Guna Sankhyaneh
Projate Guna Sankhyaneh
Yatave Trinu Tanu Api
Yatava Shrinu Tanu
Jnanam Karma Chakarta Cha
Jnanam Karma Chakarta Cha
Tridaiva Guna Vedata
Vidaiva Guna Vedata
Projate Guna Sankhyaneh
Projate Guna Sankhyaneh
Yatave Trinu Tanu Api
Yatava Shrinu Tanu
Knowledge.
Knowledge
Karma,
Karma
work.
Work
Cha,
Cha
also.
Also
Karta,
Karta
worker.
Worker
Cha,
Cha
also.
Also
Trida,
Trina
of three kinds.
Three kinds
Eva,
Eva
certainly.
Certainly
Guna Vedataha.
Guna Vedataha
In terms of different modes of material nature.
In terms of different modes of material nature
Projate
Projate
are said.
Ourself
Guna Sankhyaneh.
Guna Sankhyaneh
In terms of different modes.
In terms of different modes
Yata,
Yatha
tat, vat. As they are.
As they are
Shrinu,
Shrinu
here.
Here
Tani,
Tani
all of them.
All of them
Api,
Api
also.
Also
Translation. According to the three modes of material nature, there are three kinds of knowledge. Action and the performer of action. Now hear of them from me. Okay. Oops. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the 14th chapter, the three divisions of the modes of material nature were elaborately described. In that chapter, it was said that the mode of goodness is illuminating, the mode of passion materialistic, and the mode of ignorance conducive to laziness and indolence. All the modes of material nature are binding. They are not sources of liberation. Even in the mode of goodness, one is conditioned. In the 17th chapter, the different types of worship by different types of men in different modes of nature were described. In this verse, the Lord says that he wishes to speak about the different kinds of knowledge, workers, and work itself. So, we're going to read about knowledge in the different modes. So to get a basic idea of the modes, we have three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Prabhupada says they're shown by the color yellow for goodness, red for passion, and blue for ignorance. And we can understand what mode we're in kind of by our thinking. In the mode of goodness, which one are you situated in the present of the three modes? Which one?
Ignorance.
In the present?
No, in the class it's goodness.
No, yeah. If in the present, it's goodness. Which one are we thinking in the future? No. No.
Passion.
Passion. And which one are we lamenting about the past?
Ignorance.
Yes. That shows us. Goodness, we're generally trying to be healthy, be helpful, be kind, be nurturing, situated in present, not disturbed by things, seeing what is a good thing to do. Passion, we're thinking, how can I exploit? Basically, goodness, you want to help. Passion, you want to exploit. And ignorance, you want to destroy. So, in passion, we're thinking passion can be judged by a couple things. What do people in the mode of passion want?
Money.
Money, sex, power, right? Maybe not in that order. I say first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women, right? Is that it? Or as Bhadrinarayan Swami said today, liquor's quicker, right? So if you don't have the intelligence to exploit the women by passion, what do they use? Ignorance. Violence. That's liquor, violence. So in the mode of ignorance, what do we do there? If they go out and get drunk, they do that in Ireland, right? Is it? Yes? But it's possible to change your modes, isn't it? Or if you're in the mode of goodness, if you're in the mode of ignorance, you can't get out of ignorance. And once you're in goodness, you can never fall from goodness. Is that it? No. Say we take an average materialist and he comes to the temple and chants and worships the deity. What does he become? He becomes devotee. Say you take, if a drunk in the street, if he drinks alcohol, what happens? He gets drunk. What happens if a devotee drinks alcohol? Also gets drunk, right? He gets drunk. Same thing happens, right? You do the same thing, you'll get the same result. So basically, goodness is helpful, passion is exploitive, and ignorance is destructive. So now we're going to see how this affects knowledge. We see it affects so many different things that go on. And the trouble with these modes is they're like the colors we talked about. Yellow's goodness, red is passion, and blue is ignorance. Now we look at colors we have, like how many shades of blue are here, right? Because some of the blue is total blue, some of it has some yellow in it, some of it has some red in it, right? Isn't it? So because they're mixed, it's like Prabhupada gave this lecture once in Los Angeles. It's like you take the three colors, and 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 9 is 81. So by mixing them in different ways, you get some combinations that is very hard to tell. But let's look into knowledge. I'll just read them because we won't repeat all of these verses because we're supposed to discuss them all. Sarva bhuteshu yenakam bhava avyayam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tajganam vidisatvikam. Sattvikam. Does that indicate it might be about passion? Does it? Does it? No, it indicates it might be about goodness. Remember, I might ask some tricky questions, right? Sarva bhuteshu, in all living entities. Yena, by which, ekam, one, bhavam, situation, avyayam, imperishable, ikshate, one sees, avibhaktam, undivided, vibhakteshu, in the numberless divided, tat, that, jnanam, knowledge, vida, no, sattvikam, in the mode of? Right. Translation, that knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities. Though they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. Purport. A person who sees one spirit soul in every living being, whether a demigod, human being, animal, bird, beast, aquatic, or plant, possesses knowledge in the mode of goodness. In all living entities, one spirit soul is there, although they have different bodies in terms of the previous work. As described in the 7th chapter, the manifestation of the living force in every body is due to the superior nature of the Supreme Lord. Thus, to see that one superior nature, that living force in every body, is to see in the mode of goodness. The living entity is imperishable, although the bodies are perishable. Differences are perceived in terms of the body, because there are many forms of material existence in conditional life. The living force appears to be divided. Such impersonal knowledge is an aspect of self-realization. So we see that in goodness one sees things as they really are. The better the mode, the bigger picture he sees. In the mode of goodness, he can see the whole picture. He can see how things are connected. He sees that each person, he is seeing them as the soul. Just like it says earlier in Bhagavad-Gita, that the humble sage sees with equal vision the dog and the dog-eater, the elephant, a man, he sees all of them with equal vision because he sees music. No other music now, please. So he sees that the same spark is there within all living entities. You know, just like you see them in the restaurant, they may have many glasses of water, but they all have the same water inside them, right? You see that there's something similar. They all have the same similarity. So in the mode of goodness, you start to see things as they really are, how they are connected. And we see in this mode, we will not only benefit ourselves, but we can create world peace a lot better. I got to speak at one peace conference in South Africa because the new government likes what I used to do that was illegal. They like this because what I did that was illegal, during that time, they had a law called the National Security Act. And I broke this law because this law meant to take people like of brown, black, and white skin and have a meeting together. This violates the national security. But if we think about it, if we put all people together with a commonality, doesn't that create better security than looking for a difference? Right? You look for the common spark inside. Plus you're seeing what's really there. The spiritual spark, because when the person is gone, the body just sits there. It doesn't move. But the spark inside. So if someone comes to the mode of goodness, what's that saying, pretty is as pretty does? You know, the trouble with this is that the mode is kind of like if it's really cold, you're outside, you're thinking about jackets and maybe skiing, but you're not thinking about surfing and going to swim in the Govindakund. And, you know, you think about things that are related to that mode. So when you're in a mode, it's kind of all-encompassing. It affects everything that's going on. Like if I throw a bucket of water on you, you're very conscious of that, not thinking, well, what would it be like if it was too hot or if I was dry? You think about what is going on. So the mode is all-encompassing. So in this goodness, they start to see how things really are, and they look for the similarity, not the difference. You look at it, well, one's wearing white, one's wearing blue, one's wearing saffron, and then there's this, and then some are women, and then some have things over their head, and some are wearing Indian clothes, and some are not, and we start dividing them up pretty soon, instead of seeing the important part is that there's a commonality, a spiritual spark inside of each one. So this is seeing things as they are, and it also creates the best unity within people because it's looking for the similarity. See, like American people have 5 fingers, but how many do you have? Wow, same amount? How about Ireland? What do they have there? 4, 5, 6? Only 3, oh. So it's not an Irish soul or an Indian soul or American soul, right? It's a commonality inside. The soul is the same. The dress is different. But when we're in goodness, we start to see that they all have this common spiritual spark inside. So by coming to goodness, we can see this, and by seeing it, it may help us also come to goodness. We have to think in goodness. We have to see people in those terms instead of trying to divide them up into different ways, right? Just like people think, oh, there's so many Indians here that aren't Indians, right? Like you're from Canada, right? The people below me are from Australia. And then Jai Pataka Swami is originally from Canada, but he's actually an Indian by passport, right? So what's an Indian citizen may not be what you think. You may point out certain people are Indians and certain are not, and it's not correct. But the common spirituality, we can be correct about that all the time. So what would the next mode be? We'll read about it. Prita kritvena tu yajganam nama bhavan pritag vidan veti sarvam bhuteshu tajganam vidi rajasam. That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should know to be in the mode of passion. The concept that the material body is the living entity, and that with the destruction of the body, the consciousness is also destroyed, is called knowledge in the mode of passion. According to that knowledge, bodies differ from one another because of the development of different types of consciousness. Otherwise, there is no supreme soul which manifests consciousness. This is what they think in passion. The body is itself the soul, and there is no separate soul beyond the body. According to such knowledge, consciousness is temporary. Or else, there are no individual souls, but there is an all-pervading soul, which is full of knowledge. And this body is a manifestation of temporary ignorance. Or beyond this body, there is no special individual or supreme soul. All such conceptions are considered products of the mode of passion. So why are they thinking this way? Why are they thinking that the body is the soul, that they're all the same? But what particularly makes them think that way? Well, just like we went back to goodness, when you start thinking that you're the soul and act as the soul, you start seeing things that way. But if you think that you're the body, what will make you think that you're the body? Trying only to satisfy the body. What are the things that people in passion want? What? But particularly, what things were we just discussing? Money? Money, sex, power, right? Now, when you die, you take that with you, right? Is that it? In America, the one man, Henry Segerstrom, owned the South Coast Plaza Mall, and when he died, he took the mall with him, right? You think it's still there? You think the mall's still there, or did he take it with him when he died? It's still there, you're right, good guess. People don't get to take the things with them, do they? So, but the more that you're thinking that you're this, just like sometimes people may have been raised by wolves, like a baby was abandoned. Sometimes maybe the parents were killed in the forest and the baby was raised by wolves. What does the child think he is? Wolf. Why? Because he's acting like a wolf, right? So he said, pretty is as pretty does. You know, you keep thinking that, right? That you're a wolf. And they act like the wolf. So they think they're the body. They don't think of anything else because they don't connect with it. Just like a person who doesn't have electricity may not believe that it exists. If I had explained when I first came to India in 71, if I had said, when I come back here in 2017, the Indian girls in the cities will be walking around in jeans, talking in a box to other people. Would they believe it? No. Why? Because they haven't experienced it, right? So it may be there, but you haven't experienced it, right? So because if you don't experience something, it doesn't seem real to you. Like, is there a movie theater in Vrindavan? There's a one in Mathura. We haven't really tried to experience it, so we're not sure, right? Does that mean it doesn't exist? No, there probably is one in Mathura, but because you haven't thought about it, it more or less doesn't exist. True? Because you haven't thought about, well, does it exist? Maybe it doesn't. So, because we do not try to experience it, it doesn't come into our consciousness. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So the person is acting, we go back to sense gratification. When they think that I am this tongue, what is a particular thing that keeps someone thinking they're the body? What particularly does? What?
Eating food.
Well, not eating.
Lack of knowledge.
No. No, more than that. What's that? No, ignorance is different. What is it that really puts someone in the bodily concept?
The world.
What? No, but particularly. You think, I'm a man, that's a woman, that looks attractive. When you think about enjoying the body, particularly through sex, right? Because then you must be the body. Otherwise, what if I'm the shirt? Oh, good. I'll throw my shirt over there with a female shirt, and then we enjoy, right? They throw their shirt in the corner, and you throw your shirt there, and you enjoy that way, right? Is that it? If we thought we were the shirts, then that's what you would think, right? Wow, I got to throw my shirt in with someone else's shirt, and it was great enjoyment. So the difference is this is a covering, right? Like sometimes when it's cold, there may be another covering underneath, right? So the same way, the body is a covering. So if you're thinking, oh wow, that really feels good touching myself here, doesn't it? Because I'm this shirt, right? Don't pull me, let me go out. So the person is thinking the same about the other covering. So if you keep acting like that, just like the child that's raised by the wolves feels like they're a wolf. So when you keep acting like you're the body, it becomes real, particularly when we're trying to enjoy through this, right? Like you don't try to enjoy by putting the fruit in the shirt. You try to enjoy by putting it in the right place. But if you think that, you're going to keep trying it, don't you? You get hungry, well, put the food in your shirt. You keep trying it. The solution is to put more, right? Is that it? If I'm hungry and I put 1 cup of dal in my shirt and it didn't satisfy my hunger, the solution is to pour another cup in, right? Will that make me less hungry? But if I'm hungry after 1 cup of dal in the shirt, certainly 2 or 3 cups of dal in the shirt, I won't be hungry anymore, correct? No? But I put 3 cups in there. Isn't that enough? No, is 3 cups of dal enough? It is enough.
It's enough, but not.
But it has to be in the right place, right? Right? It's just like there's a like Prabhupada says, the authorized box, right? Like you can go to the bank and you can either take the money out of the machine or you can deposit the check in there, right? But if you just throw the check in any box, will it get there? No. It has to be the right one. So if we're thinking we're the body, if we act like that, then we're going to think that. We're just think, well, I need some more. One wasn't enough, I need more. And people sing songs about this. Didn't Bob Marley sing one? Now that you get what you want, do you want more? And that's the way it is, right? They want more. Okay. So now we'll go on to something else, and then we'll discuss more of these. What else could be left? Okay. Was it supposed to be 19 through how many? Through 22 only. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. Sorry. Yat tu Kirtana vad ekshamin karye saktam aitukam at tu artha vad alpam cha tad tasmanam udaritam. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the mode of darkness. That's what the alpam is, meager, very small. Meager isn't good, right? Oh, you gave me a meager portion. Eating means like not just small, but like really small, right? Purport. The knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance, because every living entity in conditional life is born in the mode of ignorance. One who does not develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injunctions has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of the directions of Scripture. For him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with the absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as a product of the mode of darkness. In other words, knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond the body is in the mode of goodness. Knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is in the mode of passion. And knowledge concerned only with keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance. So what kind of knowledge would someone want in the mode of ignorance? What would they want to know? What's that? What would they want? Something that the mode of passion wouldn't. What's that?
Money.
They want money. What else would they be thinking of? The person in the mode of passion is looking for money, and the man is looking for women, women for men. What is the person in the mode of ignorance wants? Drugs, alcohol, yes. They want to know where the liquor, they'll know where the liquor store is, right? Do we know that? I don't think there even is one in Vrindavan, is there? I hear they have to go to the end, they can get it down there, right? Now, if they want alcohol, they know where it is, don't they? And they probably know exactly when it opens and exactly when it closes, right? Wouldn't they? Yes? They have knowledge of this. We don't have this knowledge. Because it doesn't matter to us. If we don't want it, does it matter if it's open or closed? Right? Like there's a place that fixes tires. Your tire goes bad, you want to know. But otherwise, if you don't have a car, are you concerned when the tire shop is open and when it isn't? So they're very concerned with this. So what does ignorance have that passion doesn't have? What are some things that you would do in ignorance that are different? The passion, they still think that they think the body is all that exists. But what is there in ignorance that's worse? What's that? Self-destruction, yes. Self-destruction, and what else?
Laziness.
Laziness, what else? That's why Prabhupada used to say, better to do something sinful than nothing at all.
Destructive.
My father used to say that, do something even if it's wrong, right? Because it's better that you try to, let's say, perform some service, even if you did it wrong, than to just sleep all day. So they're destructive. And what are a couple things that they do in ignorance, that they're particularly in ignorance? A couple of the principles. Which two of the principles are particularly in ignorance?
Destroy others, hurt others.
Hurt others. So what is one thing we do not to hurt others? What don't we eat? Meat. Right? Do you notice the difference when people eat meat? Is it easier for them to be destructive? And what's strange is how they worship one kind of animal, like the dog is more sacred in America than the cow is here. Because here people care for the cow, but there they'll spend any amount of money when the dog is sick. And they take it to the dog groomer and have it all even people have the mobile dog groomer. The van comes around to your house to give the dog a shampoo and a washing and a grooming, and look, my dog has been to the groomer, right? They don't do that with the cows here, right? They don't have a mobile cow groomer here, do they? No, so they don't think of that level. Even if the cow is sacred, they don't take it to the same level of worship that they do the dog in America.
Medical insurance for dogs.
Yes? They don't have that for cows here? You have medical insurance for dogs. Yeah, dentist and yeah. And they get them to spend money to save them, and then if they can't save them, well, now you have to spend money to kill them. Well, why did I spend the money in the first place? You don't just turn around and kill them. I'm killing you because I love you. So you see, this all goes along with ignorance, to hurt other animals. And what particularly helps to be in ignorance? What is break the word down? What does ignorance mean? What? Ignore. So if we're thinking about things a lot, and we're thinking about people we've hurt and things we've done wrong, because one thing, if we're in goodness, we're on the right path and we feel peaceful. If we're in passion, we may hurt other people, make some mistakes, and so we feel bad about it. So we really have two choices. We can come to goodness, try to change our behavior, or ignore. What really helps you ignore things? What helps to ignore things? Alcohol. Yeah, if you get a big bottle of whiskey and then you drink that, can you ignore what you did to others or what they did to you? Yes? But it's kind of like they say, that's taking poison and expect someone mistreated you, so you drink the alcohol. But that's like taking poison and hoping someone else will die from it. It doesn't work out. But it does work real well to help ignore things for a while, doesn't it? If they drink the alcohol or take the drug. It's just like certain times you may need a drug. If you had an operation, you may need a painkiller, right? Because the pain makes that physical pain go away because it may be unbearable. But we don't take those because we can't deal with life the way that life is. That's ignorance. If we don't like the way life is because we're frustrated in passion, we really either have to go up to goodness or down to ignorance. It's too hard to stay in that much frustration. You either have to transcend it or you get intoxicated. Isn't it true? Right? And Prabhupada even says you come some point in life where some tragedy will happen where you either have to turn to Krishna or you turn to intoxication. You see, that's why we have to be spiritually strong. We have to care about people. We see how hard it was when Raj Vallabhi passed away, just, in a second at the age of 23. Yet parents are handling it very well because they know, in goodness, that she is the spirit soul, that she goes back to Godhead. Their spirit souls also, they're coming there. If someone is not spiritually fit, when something like this happens, they take to big intoxication. Maybe for a day, maybe for a week, maybe a year, maybe for the rest of their life, right? Some people get started and never are able to stop. They definitely have this in Ireland, don't they? Yes? They have America and other places too. So we never know when something is coming along. It's like, I think Kavi Chandra was talking about, the safety net is the mode of goodness, that we don't want to go below that. At least we don't take intoxication or go off and break principles. But that shouldn't be our spiritual condition. We should be trying to chant and improve our consciousness, but at least we don't go below that point. But if we're not spiritually strong, because when some tragedy happens, you either turn to Krishna or you turn to intoxication. You can't just watch one of the shows on Indian TV, right? From what I hear, they're boring anyway, right? But it isn't going to get you through it. You either have to transcend it or you get intoxicated, isn't it? Right? But tragedies won't happen to you, that's someone else, right? Tragedies are things that happen to other people. Is that right? That's what you think until it happens to you. And that makes you in worse shape. If you realize it can happen at any time, you're in better shape than if you think that, oh no, I won't. Just like you see, that's how people cause accidents here, because they think, oh no, I won't cause that, right? People drink alcohol and drive a car. And if they hit someone else, is that an accident? Is it? Who says yes? No, it's not. If you're driving along the road and you're trying to drive correctly, but somehow you mistake something, that's an accident. But if you got intoxicated, then you already know that you're impaired and shouldn't be driving. So it's not considered an accident, it's considered a crime. It's different, right? If I hit your car with mine and I get out and I get insurance or I pay you money, I haven't committed any crime. But if I did something wrong or if I was intoxicated, then I have already, before I even hit somebody, I've already not cared whether I'm endangering others. You're already endangering them by getting on the road, right? Isn't it? What?
He can run.
Yeah. These become crimes. So we have to understand the result of these things and how it changes our thinking. If we're in goodness, we get to see things the way they really are. Just like I said, if the person is a drunk and they drink, they get drunk. But if someone's a devotee and they go through a tragedy, do you think if they drink alcohol and then, do you think then that they're exempt from that? I remember last year I told the Dobiwala that he was drinking abusively, and he had an accident with a laundry on the motorcycle. And I says, you're beat up from the feet up. He was all scarred up, and he says, but I says, your drinking is going to kill you. He says, well, I'm a good man. I says, you might be a good man and it's still going to kill you. He died from liver failure last year at 44. So, you might be a good man. You might come from a nice family. You might have all qualifications, but you can still die from liver failure, or you can still cause trouble in a vehicle. Isn't it true? You don't become exempt from these things by thinking, just like we heard in the class this morning, someone can be born in a dog-eater family, but they become a devotee, and they can transcend all this. So it's more important what we do than who we think we are. Because at any time, we're always in a crossroads in life where we can go to one of these modes. So, as Krishna says, as you see how these modes are working, they stop influencing. When you see that, wow, look how much trouble someone can get in by starting intoxication. Because when you start it, you don't know where the end is, right? You might think, well, some person might drink the alcohol today and they may quit tomorrow. Someone else maybe 10 years and they're still under the influence of it. They just could not stop. Because once you've done something, it's just like there's a big difference between thinking about killing yourself and shooting yourself in the head, right? If you talk to someone before you do something wrong, it's a much bigger difference than afterwards, right? Call me after you shot yourself in the head. Is that a good time? No. So we have to see how these modes are working, and that the mode of each of these modes shrinks our perception down. In goodness, we can see the whole picture, that God is the root of the tree and we are all the leaves. In passion, we just see that we're our body and the work we do and the things we want to get for ourselves. And in ignorance, it shrinks even below that. It's like many people who get intoxicated, they don't leave home, right? And how does the home look inside? Messy, dirty, stinky, right? Isn't it? This is a sign of ignorance. And some of the people hoard things. They don't throw anything away. Newspapers, old trash. They think they might need it later somehow. The things they really think they actually need, they don't investigate at all. But they keep all kinds of trash because I might need it later. The idea is they know something is missing, but they don't know what it is. So they don't want to lose anything. And that's why these modes, we're under the influence of it. Just like you may be a good driver of a car, but if you're under the influence of alcohol, all that's out the window. So when we're under the influence of a mode, we're going to act differently than we would without it. So we have to see how these modes are working in our life and see that the mode of goodness expands us to broader horizons all the way back to Krishna and how everything is connected to Krishna. And we get along better. Because, in the mode of passion or ignorance, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm from America, the rest of you are somewhere else, and I'm a man, that excludes the women. And by the way, I'm from the West Coast, that includes the Midwest and the East Coast. And I'm from Southern California, that excludes Northern California. And I'm from Laguna Beach, that excludes all the bigger cities. So you can keep thinking that way, right? Just like we don't think that, well, I'm an Indian, and because what's an Indian? Jayapataka Swami was born in Canada, but he's an Indian citizen. Other people are Canadian citizens, but they're of Indian heritage. So what's an Indian, right? It's the ones in America who live in the forest. Those are Indians? They are Indians, right? You know why they're Indians? Columbus thought he was in India. He was trying to go to India. So if that was India, the people must be Indians. And 500 years later, they still call them that. Be like if you came to here and thought this was Gujarat. So 500 years later, you're calling the people Gujaratis. This is a misunderstanding. Obviously, it's based on lower modes because in goodness, you start to see things as they really are. So, in one sense, we don't concentrate on goodness as much. But the difference is that just like we're talking about conducting electricity, metal and water are not actually electricity. But they conduct it better than the wood or the stone. That's why we run it through metal. Imagine if you ran electricity through the wood to this and touched it, it wouldn't make much difference. But if I get a bucket of water and put my feet in the bucket of water and stick a metal fork in the socket, will I feel the electricity? Yeah, but only once. So the same way, the mode of goodness is like the metal and the water. It's very conducive to spiritual things. Food is not spiritual, but if it's in goodness, it can be made spiritual. Just like the metal is not electricity, but because it's conducive, you can run electricity through it. So the actions in the mode of goodness can be spiritualized. So that's what we try to do. We make them spiritualized because by spiritualized and goodness together, we get the benefit of both. Because it's very hard to do the ignorant things. So you think, I'll go out and get drunk so I can perform better devotional service? How does that work? Does that work very well? Even if you think it might work, does it work well? What if they take amphetamines because that keeps you awake for days and then that makes them... Does that make them more spiritual? Because they can stay awake longer? No? It's what? Oh, yes. The trouble is it's we want to get out of these modes. We want to offer it in the mode of goodness. And it's important to know how these modes are working so that we're not as affected by them. So we see here that goodness broadens it. We see as common spiritual spark. We see the similarities in everyone. We get along nicely. In passion, they're all different. And in ignorance, you don't care about any of that. You just want wine and women's song and sleep it off somewhere. So any questions or comments about these? Yes?
I have a question.
Yes.
Not to criticize anyone or find fault with anyone, but in our movement itself, we see some devotees, they will
Is there a
acquire
microphone?
lots of knowledge,
Yes.
transcendental knowledge.
Yes?
They will share it with others, like preaching.
Yes.
However, their behavior doesn't represent what they don't walk the walk, but they talk the talk.
Well, completely or
what-
partially or?
By behavior, you can see they are like rushing after money into business, and
But maybe they take a business and use it to support a temple or
and then they
give money to
exploit
build
other
projects
devotees
or.
by renting, like in Vrindavan, they will build, skyscrapers and then rent it to like very extensive, very expensive amount compared to other places. But
I guess you have to look at each, because one person may make money and give money to
Yeah,
Krishna,
there's
and
no
someone else
problem.
may have that and make money but give some advantage to devotees and try to be fair in it. So, I mean, that's kind of because like we said, it's like mixing the colors. If goodness is yellow and passion is red and ignorance is blue, it's very hard to just say, okay, this one is all yellow and this one is, there may be, how much mixture is there?
No, my question is.
Because it's okay to make money. If someone builds a building and rents them out, do they use some of it for Krishna? Are they fair to the tenants? Are they, do they act in a reputable way at least?
So
Right.
if that's not the case, what are all the examples that you have?
Yes.
So what mode will, they're taking transcendental.
Well, they're
knowledge.
mixed. It's mixed, obviously. There's a mixture. And just like with the colors, it's, you'd have to look at the whole situation, see how mixed it is. Are they trying to hurt those people or trying to exploit those people or just make a little money and pass it along? Because that might be more passion. So someone else doesn't do anything and just wants to live off the temple, that may be ignorance. So, it's hard to just to blanketly say that someone who's trying to make money is automatically not walking the walk, because they may use money in Krishna's service and they may do a qualified product and treat the employees and treat the customers fairly. So, the business could be very much in goodness that way. Use some profit for Krishna, create a good project, make people happy about it. A lot of us see other people happy with it or not, right? Like when you make the prasadam in Ireland, they're happy with it, right? Because you make good quality, it's served nice, and you don't overcharge them, right? But yet you still make some money, right? But to do business, you have to make something for yourself, but to do it nice, you have to leave something for the next person, right? They have to get a good product, or they get it at a good enough price that they can resell it later, or they got a good enough deal that's better than what they'd buy somewhere else. So, you have to think in that, that after all, quite often the businesses that are successful are the ones that sell something a little better at the same price, or the same quality but a less price, and they make more of it. And they do it properly rather than just trying to exploit one person. Right?
If there is exploitation involved, that's in ignorance.
Well, exploitation would be passion. Destruction would be ignorance. So they're not trying to destroy the people. Ignorance would be like as if you found that there was mold in there and it killed the people and they didn't say anything about it. Exploitation is they charge them a little extra more than other places. But there's nothing wrong with doing business particularly, but do they mistreat the people or?
Yeah, the fruit of the action, what do they do?
And what do they do with fruits of the action? So, you'd have to look at each situation, right? It's like saying someone's selling a piece of property. Is it a good idea? Well, what is the price of it and what should the price be? So, if someone's renting them out a little less than what they should be for, it's like we have some properties in Florida we got at a very good price, and we treat the tenants very nicely. They always pay on time. And from that I can give money to Laguna Temple. I sent money to help build the TOVP, sponsor a girl here at the Sandapani Muni School. And you can do things, but what you have to do is be sharp enough to get something, you get something at half the price and sell it for 80% instead of paying more for it and selling it for more. You get an opportunity where you can sell it or rent it for less than others and still make a good profit. So you have to be smart enough in that to, that's goodness to do it properly. So, it depends on so many factors. It's kind of hard to just analyze with, you show how they treat them. What if something's broken, do they fix it right away, or do they? These things vary so much, don't they? So I guess it depends on each situation, maybe a little different. It's not like they're either totally pure or they're totally in the mode of ignorance. Yes? You have some question? Yes. There's no microphone because then they get to hear it. Where is it? Bring the microphone.
I'm comfortable like this.
Well, no, because the people want to hear it though. Because otherwise they wonder what's going on.
I'm nervous to ask the question.
So what? Okay. All right. Okay, ask the question.
So I heard from many lectures that when you put more of goodness and more of passion into Krishna, then it becomes transcendent. Like a grasta working, you'll be a more of passion. Or I'm going to preaching, that is more of goodness. But since Krishna is the center, then it becomes more of transcendence, or it becomes transcendent.
Well,
I don't know if I'm right on that. Then
we offer goodness to Krishna. The passion may be the enthusiasm of doing it, but still the goal has to be.
But if you're putting it in Krishna, they said your results is going as transcendental. There's no result for that. There's no karma for that.
Well, according to what we're reading here about the understanding, is it's going to be very hard to preach if your understanding is in passion and you only think that this body is important. You kind of have to come to the mode of goodness to be able to understand that they all have a common spirituality. So you have to come to that to be able to present it properly.
Agreed to that. So my question is, if someone puts Allah, Jesus or Buddha instead of Krishna, then what is the result for his actions?
Pretty much similar,
So why
but it may not be quite as it may be not quite as concentrated as what we do, because they don't have quite the ability to understand processes of devotional service and delineate it in a way that's user friendly. Like they say, serve God, but what does that mean, right? They don't have a way, they don't have processes and things they do. So based on that. But we should be trying to come to goodness. If you have some passion, but you should be trying to act in goodness. You shouldn't be trying to culture the passion. If there's some there, that may be one thing. But we should be trying to be predominantly in goodness, and we should try to be culturing spiritual goodness.
So if I'm understanding you right, those who are in the mode of goodness is not going to discriminate.
Right. That's it. Discrimination comes from passion. That's the difference. And they treat each of the tenants fairly. They can't say, well, it's okay with passion. I'm going to mistreat this tenant and this one I'll give a fair rent to. That becomes discriminating, which is not fair. Next question?
Sometimes we are doing our service and we are engaging our service.
Yes.
Somebody comes and tells this thing is going on, that thing is going on. So he try to disturb us. And sometimes we always try to say this thing is going on, this thing is going on.
What do you mean by this thing going on? You mean they want you to go to some other event or?
Negative things or something.
Oh, yeah.
Different. So the mind get disturbed. They're trying to disturb the things. Even though if you want to chant properly Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram,
Yeah.
Ram. But still somebody comes and tell you, this thing is going on, this thing happened, that thing happened. So negative things are going on. So how to avoid those all things?
Tell them to write it down and give it to you. That way you don't have to hear it directly. Especially too if we're planning times, right? Like there's a time to brush your teeth and use the computer, right? But not when you're driving the car to Delhi, right? So you must do the most productive thing at any given moment. Now, when it's late at night, is sleeping the most productive thing? Yes, because you need to recharge in the morning. So, for a start, you schedule yourself. When it's Mangalartik time or round time, then that's what you're doing. If there's a time when you talk to people, but you always have the right to say, this is disturbing me. And you don't hold it against the person forever, but you say, this is disturbing me. I really don't want to discuss this matter, because you're not duty-bound to listen to things that are disturbing you. And if it's not something you can do something about, then, why are they telling you? So I say, do you know what they're doing at Riverside, California? What can you do about it anyway, right? What good is it going to do? If there's something I tell you what they're doing, they go on Harinama and they attract people to a book table, and from that they distribute books. Well, maybe you can use that, but are they giving you something that you can use? I mean, is it helpful to you? Does it pass the test of the... I know I make so many mistakes anyway, but I really try to remember the austerity of speech. First, is it truthful? If it's not truthful, why bring it out, right? But that isn't all of it, right? Is it pleasing? And sometimes we may not realize that someone's going to be bothered by something, but if they are, then we try to either apologize or don't do it again. But, just like selling a product, first, like Vaisheshika tells them, create a good impression, or ask them, is this a good time, right? If I'm going to sell you something big, you say, is this a good time to talk? I don't just launch into a whole... So you should say, this isn't a good time, or please don't say things, because it should be pleasing, it should be beneficial, and it should be based on scriptural knowledge. So, like someone said to me too, not nightmares first. The first thing we talk about something else, with something that's pleasing, something about Krishna's pastimes. But the first thing has to be, and they make it sound like, did you know what's going on? Like it's going to make the world end. Because is it going to benefit you by what kind of things they tell you? Prajalpa. Is that one of those are the processes of devotional service? Nindanam, Prajalpanam, Vindiktanam. Are those processes? Yeah, so it's better to think, what are you going to say to someone can you say, I have a lot of things to work on and a lot of things to enter in my mind. Can you think of something like about Krishna's pastimes, So I catch people off guard and say, we'll tell you about the story about how the government was changed in Mathura. You know what happened there? They were sending people from Mathura over to Vrindavan to make trouble. Did you know that? They came here to make big trouble.
Putana.
Yeah, Putana was one of them. Who else? There was a big snake. A big snake? Agasura. So then they asked the two young boys to come there, and they made them wrestle with these big wrestlers. And then when the leader of Mathura, Kamsa, said that I'm going to kill Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men, then Krishna jumped on the dais, threw him on the ground and killed him, and put Ugrasena in charge. So that's how the government was changed in Mathura. So, they had to talk with politics, or something that's beneficial, something that somebody did, that's something that we could follow or that we can use, right? Isn't it? Otherwise, what is the, how can we use it otherwise, right? Mary Smith was knitting sweaters. Okay, well, we'll probably never knit a sweater, so what good was that going to do us, right? It may be true, but is it really of any benefit? So I guess at least ourselves, we have to think, how can we say something that's... And even if we're trying to do that, we can make mistakes, but then we can just try to keep doing that the next time. Think of, ask, how can I be of some benefit to you today? You can ask someone that. But why do they start with just the nightmare first? Are you supposed to solve it or what? Right? I mean, what is it you're supposed to do with the information?
Yes, like mode of ignorance, special ignorance, that
Yes.
three modes are always there. So to see that how to avoid these modes can come in the mode of goodness.
Like if you have a phone and I say, listen, the building is on fire, then obviously I want you to call somebody. But otherwise, why are they telling you about something that seems to be? Are you supposed to solve it? No, then why are they? Is it your fault?
Because they think if
It's
you-
not your
if
fault
you-
either,
if
right?
you- If you tell someone, then he will tell someone like this, things will go on and everybody will know what is going wrong and what is going right. That's why maybe in that way, so that from one person to another person to another one. So like this, the things will go on and whatever my motto is that my motto is complete.
Is there any evidence that this kind of thing actually is beneficial that way?
No.
No, I mean, you put an article in a newspaper that's positive, or something went wrong, like the one girl who was saying that when her daughter was murdered here, that she wrote an article on the paper to the chief minister saying that how the child was murdered and they haven't investigated it. And the next day, the investigators came to the door and said, we got a call from the chief minister and they want us to investigate it. And they got the son, and it turns out the father was doing something wrong too, and they solved it all. So I think it's, you better talk to the person that's right. Like if the building's on fire, do you talk to a bunch of people or call the fire people, right? Buildings aren't made out of wood here, so you don't have as much with that, right? But if a crime was committed, I tell you and expect someone, or go to the police chowki and ask for help with. I think it's better to tell people you'll go to someone who can actually do something about this with isn't it? Why, how many people come to you with things that are, or do you keep remembering it?
Not many, just
Yeah.
positiveness about this one.
Yeah.
Not many.
Well, it do better too is say, let me get my rounds done first, because, it's not like, the ground didn't open up, right? Like if the ground opened up, right? Like here, it opens up and people are following in, then it probably has to be dealt with immediately, right? But the things they're telling you about can probably wait until after your rounds are done, right? It's not like a plane is coming straight for the building. Get out of the way quick, right? Like when I was in Taliban, and the one person came and said, get out of the street right now, right? I figured it had to be good reason, so I got out of the street, and a bull came around the corner pulling this cart, and it would have run me over if I was in the street, right? So that couldn't wait till later. That had to be dealt with then, but it's not a situation where you're going to get run over by something, right? So get out of the street, the truck is coming, right? It's not something that... So just tell them, look, I need to finish my rounds first, and then if you think it's something I can help with, isn't it? That's why I go hide when I chant my rounds. And if that's the priority, right? Then you do that first, because it's a lot easier to do the rounds without having to do a bunch of other stuff. You can do the other stuff later, but isn't it true? But if you're trying to do the rounds on that, because the way the brain works, the brain has a thing called a reticular regulator. That's why if there's a fire, the alarm goes off like wah, 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 wah. Why? Because it wants you to really to understand this is the most important thing, everything else can wait. If the alarm has a soft woman's voice saying, I smell a scent of smoke in the air, you might not take it seriously. Get out of the street right now, or watch out. So what the brain does is, if I'm chanting and going Hare Krishna, thinking, the brain says, okay, this is important, other things can wait. But then if I start talking about something else, then the brain says, okay, that's important, the chanting can go on the back burner. But is that what you want to happen? If you have to move because the ground is opening up, then you take care of that first. But is the other thing so important? So you have to regulate by whatever you tell the brain is most important, it'll listen to. So if you start thinking something else is, then the chanting goes on the back and you don't get concentrated chanting. So you have to make the other things go on the back burner, and that goes by scheduling. Isn't it? So just tell people, until I've finished with this, come, because especially when you're trying to chant, then it's harder to do. Just like maybe you can do the computer, but not while you're driving the car. You can't have the computer doing it. So if you say, you know what, let me finish with the computer first, and then I'll drive the car. Let me finish my chanting first, then I'll do the computer. Let me finish the computer, then I'll drive the car, because they're not going to be effective doing those things, or having the prajalpa. Tell them that wait till I finish chanting, and then tell me what it's about first, and then we'll discuss it, right? Like, what does this have to do with? And then if it's not pleasing, you say, you know what, that's really outside my field of expertise. So, you find, you to wait for the right time and find out what it's about first, right? Isn't it? Isn't it? Is I want to give you something. What is it? Well, it's a shirt that's on fire here, right? You want to find out what it is first. So just do the rounds first before, because it's a lot easier once you have that done to deal with all these things. And if you don't want to deal with it, if it's not your responsibility, then
Sometimes I like that you don't have to ask me, you have to go to a certain person and speak to that person.
yeah.
You have some problem, you go to that person, you go to this person, that person. I am not the right one because I am not any of the management or anything in the temple. So who are they? So who can I see? Okay, you can go and see this person, you can go and see this person.
Yeah. It's all right. Shall we end there? We don't want to bore anyone. Hare Krishna.